Good morning, everyone. I'm Victoria Wills, and I'm here at Lane Arts Council. And today we are going to be moving forward, creating your world. Yesterday, we had a chance to create a planning journal, decorate the cover, and envision a world and write the title on it. Here's an example of mine. Today, we're going to move forward with the idea that we generated yesterday. Yesterday, we envisioned our world and what the land might look like and what the weather would feel like on the world. And today, what we're going to do is take those ideas and go back to our world and imagine what creatures will be living there. Who would be walking or swimming or flying in your world? We're going to take that idea of who's living in your world and create a paper mask. Here's an example of a paper mask that I made for a creature that lives in my world. Today, we're going to be making a paper mask about a creature that lives in your world. We're going to be using colored pencils and glue, a lid to trace, scissors, some paper, and maybe you have tape or staples. All right, let's get started. We're going to begin with a mindfulness movement. So let's lengthen our backs. Take a deep breath in and let that breath out. Yesterday, we enjoyed dipping our elbows and our hands in some paint, and we're going to do that again today, but with a twist. Today, I invite you to imagine that you have two different colors of paint at your sides, and you're going to take one hand and scoop up lots of paint, and you can decide what color that paint is. I am again deciding that my paint is rainbow color because I think it's really a wonderful thing to just envision all the colors that there are in the world. So I'm scooping up a rainbow of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, black, and brown. And I'm going to invite you to take that paint-covered hand, and we're going to paint lines, trace lines in the air. So everybody, let's get started tracing lines and turn a corner with your line. Make your line go in a different direction. See what different areas you can cover around your body, over your head. How about behind yourself with your lines? You can stretch your line way out to the side and swoop across and create another line. Let's make a line going down. I'm going to bring my line back up, and I'm going to change hands. Let's take the other hand and dip it into a different bucket of paint, scooping up lots of paint in there. And this time, let's try curved lines, like the shape of a snake. I'm going to start snaking my line and painting snake-shaped lines in the air around myself, over to the side and the front, moving up and down. And the name of this shape, if we move up and down in a wave shape, is called a sine wave. An S shape is a part of a shape called a sine wave. I'm going to keep making those S-shaped sine waves all around my body, remembering to move behind. And let's paint one more giant swooping S in a place that maybe you've never painted one before. All right, now we've got two paint-covered hands. Let's rub off the paint. Rub that paint off your hands in case you splashed any on your elbows. Let's make sure to get those elbows and shoulders. Elbows and shoulders. Shake your hands out. And I feel like we're ready to start art making. And remember, this is an activity that you can do anytime during the day if you're feeling stressed or you just need to wiggle around a little bit. Let's get started. As I said, we're going to be revisiting the world that we created yesterday. That means that we want to put our mind back into what our world looked like. Let's think I'm sure you didn't all create the same world in the same place. Maybe your world was in a grassland with vast flat areas and maybe some hills. Maybe it was warm and dry there. If that's you, if that's your kind of world that you created, what animals might live there? What might the animals eat? Would they need long teeth for chewing and cutting grass and stems from plants they might find? Or would they be a creature that burrowed under the ground and they might need long, sharp claws for digging? Maybe they'd have long whiskers so that they could feel their way around in the dark in the grasses that they were in. What if they were a bird that was soaring overhead and looking down at the grasslands and the hills? Maybe your land was in the tundra. Maybe you created a world that was in an icy cold place, or maybe an icy cold place in hills or in tall mountains, in glaciers with ice. And if that's so, maybe your creatures used white fur for camouflage so that they would blend into their surroundings. If they were in a cold place, maybe they needed a lot of warm fur. Is your creature covered in fur, or is your creature a bird and covered in feathers? Maybe you are someone who created a world in a forest and your creatures are slimy and are digging in the soil. Or maybe your creatures are climbing and they needed sharp hooves and the ability to balance and hold on because they're climbing on steep cliffs like a mountain goat. There are so many creatures you might have envisioned. So I'd like you to think about the land that you created, who lives there, what those creatures might need to survive, to eat, their teeth. If they were a bird, would they have a sharp, pointy beak or a long beak that was more like a tweezer for pulling worms out of soil? What kind of creature did you create? Let's just think about that for a moment and take that idea and bring it to the idea of a paper mask. We'll take one of those creatures that you choose from your world, and we will bring that to the idea of mask making. Let's look at the supplies that we need, our art materials. Here we are starting with some paper, and we'll need 2 pieces of paper. We will need a round, flat object that we can trace a circle with that's about as wide as your paper. If your flat object is a little bit wider or a little bit narrower than your paper, that's okay. We can make that work too. We'll use colored pencils to decorate your mask because you might need to show feathers or fur or spots. Your creature can also be imaginary, and you can make the color choices. We will use scissors, and depending on the connecting supply you have, we can either use tape, glue stick, or a stapler. Let's begin. With the idea of your creature in mind, let's start by making the base of the mask. We'll do that by taking your piece of paper and laying your piece of paper flat on the table. Take your flat object and lay it onto your piece of paper. Take a pencil and holding your round flat object on the paper so that it doesn't wiggle. So I'm centering it and I'm holding it down. I'm going to place it right next to the circle and I'm going to draw around. Now notice I'm going to pick up my pencil and draw from the other side. I'm going to show that again. I didn't go like this because that could be really challenging and make a wiggly line that's not easy to use. Instead, I'm going to trace around one side, pick up my hand, and trace around the other side. And before I move the circle away, I'm going to check to see if I have drawn a line all the way around, and I have. Now I can safely lift up that circular object, which mine was a lid, and look at what we have. We have a circle. The next step is to cut the circle out. I'm going to hold the paper up and carefully work all around the outside edge to cut out a circle. And what if you cut a little bit in the line or a little bit outside of the line? That's okay. It's a wonderful thing to let art surprise us. And sometimes what we might consider a mistake or something that we didn't expect to do with an art project, if we look at that with an open mind and always think, let art surprise us, then we can transform that mistake or surprise into something different. Now we have a circle. I'm going to put my scissor away, move this paper. Okay, now we have our mask base. Times. We're going to fold the mask in half and then fold the mask in half again. I'm going to fold the mask by placing one hand on one half of the mask and folding the mask over my hand. I'm placing my hand here so that I can hold it flat to make a nice fold. I'm not picking the mask up and picking the paper up and folding it in the air because that makes it difficult to get a nice fold. Place my hand on the paper, on the circle, folding it over, placing my finger in the center of the fold and pressing two fingers out. That gives me a nice even fold. I'm going to demonstrate that one more time. Paper's on the table, your paper circle's on the table, placing one hand down, folding the circle over my hand, pulling my hand out so that I can place one finger in the middle of the fold and moving two fingers out. I'm going to fold it in half again, placing my finger on one half of the paper, folding it over. Notice that I'm joining the corners. I'm making the two matching ends meet. Holding it down, placing my finger in the center of the fold, and pressing my fingers out. Those are our two folds. When we're finished, we'll open the mask up. Feel free to pause and rewind that folding step if you need more time. Now I see, if I look at my mask, and this is our mask base, that I have 4 lines that I've made, 4 creases. I'm going to take a pencil and mark one of those creases or folds so that I have a cutting line. Find the center of your mask circle. That's where both of the lines cross in an X, and make a dot there that you can see. There's your center. Now I'm going to draw down that line to the bottom and put my pencil away. This is the line that I'm going to use as my cutting guide. I'm picking the mask up a little bit from the table and cutting from the base only as far as the little dot in the center. And if you look, we can slide this over, and that's what makes our mask what we call 3-dimensional. When the piece of paper is flat and we can measure it from top to bottom and we can measure it from side to side, we call that 2-dimensional. The measurements The directions are the dimensions, top to bottom, side to side. This is two-dimensional. Look at what happens when I fold it or slide one part of the crease over the other. We now get something that takes up space, and we can call that three-dimensional because now we can measure it in three different dimensions, top to bottom, side to side, and also the part that sticks out, and that's going to be the nose. We can put this to the side now. Let's see. Okay, I'm actually going to put this here. Now let's decide, looking at our mask, where you want to place your eyes. If you notice that you have a fold going in the center, the top is going to be where the eyes will go, and the nose will be in the center, and then we'll add whiskers. Let's decide where you want to place your eyes. If you are a creature that is a hunter, then if you are following the way that animals have evolved over time, that animals have become, the animals that are hunters tend to have two eyes in the front so that they can see quick movements and they can focus in really sharply on objects that might be moving. Hunters, for example, a lion or jaguar, would have eyes that are close to the center, and you have a nice center crease so you can tell where the center is of your mask. If that's the kind of animal you chose, then you might want to draw your eyes closer toward the center. Creatures that are hunted, which we call prey means the animals that other creatures, the hunters or the predators, eat, tend to have their eyes on the side of their head. Maybe you can think of an animal with eyes that are more on the side of their head. I'm thinking of a deer, for example. And a deer would have eyes on the side of its head, so it can always be watching and looking out for itself in case the predator or hunter is coming. If you have an animal like a deer or a rat, a mouse, then your eyes would want to be more on the side of the head. Let's go ahead and draw our eyes above the center crease on the mask where you'd like them to be. And you can choose the color that you like or that you need. And I'm going to choose this color and draw some eyes. And I'm going to draw the outer eye shape. You're welcome to come back in and draw on the mask after class in between the next lesson and this lesson if you still need to add more decorating. So let's just take a moment, and I'm going to draw two roundish eyes. And they're a little bit different. I'm going to make that okay. I'm going to actually copy that one over here. All right. Going to add a little bit more color in there. Adding my sort of spooky looking eyeballs. Let's move on to adding the nose. Here we have the center that you can see because you placed your dot there. So let's go ahead and draw the kind of nose that your creature would have, depending on if it would be a little tiny pointy nose, a little tiny sniffing pointy nose, or maybe it has a larger, more widespread nose. For example, a gorilla or a baboon. I'm going to go ahead and add my nose feature. And let's see. Here is my nose. And what I like to do is draw the outline and then fill it in afterward. So I'm drawing my nose, and you can go ahead and draw underneath your center line as well. Okay, we have our mask base decorated. Right now we're doing an assembly of our mask, you can afterward come back and add more colors and patterns or fur or feathers to your mask. We're going to move on to creating the ears. Grab another piece of paper and I'm going to just put my mask base to the side. Decide what size and shape ear your animal has. If your animal is a creature like a deer that is prey or hunted, you might notice that those animals have ears that are longer, and those are good ears that are for collecting sound, such as a rabbit. And you can even do an experiment if you take your hands and place them in a round shape and put them on the sides of your head and listen. You might notice that the sounds that you're picking up are so much better and clearer than the sounds you pick up without your hands near your ears. Deer ears. So perhaps you need deer ears. Perhaps your animal has little short round ears, like a little mouse. Decide what size ears your animal's going to have, and we're going to fold the paper so that we can draw a shape for the ear and then cut out 2 ears at the same time. I'm going to place my hand on the paper again and fold my paper in half, bringing my hand out, pressing in the center of the crease and moving my 2 fingers outward. I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to draw 1 ear. And my creature is going to have kind of a long, pointy ear. There's my ear drawing. And as soon as the ear is traced, I'm going to cut it out. And this line that I'm cutting along is just necessary for knowing where to cut. It is my cutting line. The same as the cutting line that we drew on the mask base. It's just a guide. Now I have 2 ears. I need to decide where I'm going to place the ears on my mask. So bring back your mask base and experiment with where you think those ears would look the best, would look the most the way that you need them to look. So is your animal an animal that really needs to depend on collecting sound like a bat? Or an animal that might use its ears to gesture to other animals and would have the ears way up high? Decide where you want to place your ears. And let's attach the ears. Excuse me. I'm going to start with the tape. If you have tape to use for attaching your ears, pull off a small piece of tape about as wide as your eye or 2 pieces of macaroni, and turn your mask over. Lay your ears where you would like them to be on your mask. And tape 1 piece of tape to one side, another piece of tape to the other edge to hold on your ear. You can use this center line as a guide to help you match your ears up. If you want your ears to be in the same position, you might want to move your ears in a different position to give your creature a little bit of character. I'm going to lay the tape down, making sure that it's touching the ear and the mask base, and press. Doing the same on the other side, making sure the tape is touching the mask base and pressing. Turn over my mask, and there are the ears. Now, if you notice, you can pick up your mask and slide that one piece under the other. And that's how we're going to make our mask into 3 dimensions and make it a mask that will really look like a little face. I want to remind you that you can use your pencils to add some color. So let's take a moment and add a little bit of color in the ears. And my animal has a little bit of pink fur. So I'm just going to take a moment and add some fur to both ears. And next we're going to connect the bottom 2 pieces of the mask to give it the 3-dimensional shape. Turning the mask back over. For friends that are using a glue stick to connect their mask, here's how that will work. We'll take the glue stick. You can have your, place your mask on the table so that the face is up, and apply a bit of glue to the ear at the base in a line. So I'm going to take my ear and apply the glue just on the base or the bottom of the ear in a line. I'm going to apply glue to the bottom of the other ear in a line. Right along the bottom, making sure that I can see the glue. I can keep my mask facing upward when I use the glue method because I'll slide the ears underneath and press, slide the other ear underneath where I want it to be and press. What if you have ears that you're going to staple? Then you would still take your mask base, lay it down on the table, place your ear where you would like it to be, put in the staple, 2 hands on top of the staple, and press. This time we're going to staple both ends of the ear. There's how you attach the ear with the staple. Finally, we will make our mask 3-dimensional. Again, if you have tape, pull off a short piece of tape the same length, and you can turn your mask upside down and put that tape on to connect the 2 sides of your mask. Holding your mask up, you can see it's now 3-dimensional with the pointy nose. Let's try that with glue. Using the same method as before of applying a small line, apply a little line to the edge of your mask, to the edge of the cut. Slide one end over the other until it's as pointy as you would like it to be. And when it's as pointy as you'd like it to be, then press down. If you're applying that with a staple, you would follow the same directions. Put your mask in your staple, 2 hands, and press. And you have your 3-dimensional mask shape. All right. If you decide that you'd like to create holes in the eyes of your mask, you can use the fold over method by folding your mask where the eye is and making 2 cuts to let a little bit of light in and make that a mask that you can actually see through. So there is our paper circle mask that shows one of the creatures that live in your world. I'd like you to take a moment and let's walk back through the steps that we went through to create your mask and all of the decisions and choices that you made, selecting your creature and the colors that you will use, and pick your favorite choice that you felt the best about, and take that good feeling that you have from making a positive choice, take that feeling with you in your day so that you can remind yourself that you had this success, and think about other ways that you can take the idea of making art with you in your day too. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you next time when we continue to create your world. Thank you. Bye.